Hi everyone, welcome to Real Estate with Ellen. I'm Ellen Jaffe Jones, and oh my gosh, there's a plane coming in. This is the Venice airport, which has been closed for the last few hours as I ran the Shark's Tooth 5K and actually placed in my age group. I got second in the 70 to 74-year-old age category, and it was a steamer. It was 100% humidity, and the humidity in Florida often is what gets people more than just the temperature, because the temperature was still in the 70s, but it was a sweltering morning for sure. They actually had the race on the fairgrounds. It's the old runway for the old Venice airport, and what you're seeing behind me is the Legacy Trail that connects up to this, which is really cool. So where we are, just to give you some perspective, is the Venetian Waterway Park, and this connects to the Legacy Trail right here. And planes are just coming in. This is a private airport, and fortunately during the race we didn't have to deal with any of that. But it says right here, just to give you some perspective of where we are. So here's where I'm actually standing, and you can kind of tell the water, the Gulf of Mexico, is pretty close here. And I'm also seeing this is the last of the race folks taking all of the equipment away, and they actually told me I had to leave because you can see there's like a chain link fence over there, and that is the runway. And so this dirt road here behind me is where we came in, and we actually got to do the race inside the airport grounds. So this is an annual event where they do a 10K the day before, and they do a 5K on the next day, which is today, Sunday. But one of the things I wanted to talk about, the elephant in the room here, as I mentioned, the 5K was today and the 10K was yesterday, and some of the Facebook posts said the red tide was brutal. Now, I don't work for the Chamber of Commerce. I probably should, because most of my videos and the way I feel, quite frankly, is that this is one of the best places in the country. But every place has issues, and our big issue here is red tide. And you can Google it. There's differing opinions on what the cause of it is. Is it the fertilizer from the sugar industry near Lake Okeechobee that sends their runoff down our way, which ends up in our bays here? Or is it animal agriculture that is feeding the, where farms are just used primarily for growing crops to feed animals for animal agriculture, and then the fertilizers for those crops is ending up just generally in the garbage can, otherwise known as the Gulf of Mexico. So everybody knows when you give fertilizer to something, it's going to grow. And so the red tide, the algae blooms, seem to be, from what I have researched using my reporter's hat here, worse than just naturally occurring in nature. When I went on the website this morning for the race, they had just a little informational piece, which you can find from the Florida Fish and Wildlife, which talks about red tide, saying yes, it's naturally occurring. And I do know it is naturally occurring in all parts of the world. In fact, my editor, I was sharing this with her, she is in South Africa, and she said, we're having a red tide bloom now too. And part of this is fueled by global warming. So you're having the heating effect too of these shallower bodies of water that create incredible conditions for things to grow and blossom. So, because every place has its issue. And would I rather have this than dealing with blizzards in Des Moines, where I've lived? Absolutely. And so how do you deal with it? You go inland. So the airport here, it's a mile inland roughly. And so I was surprised to hear that they did experience red tide yesterday. But the thing is, it was all about the wind direction. So when you get winds, offshore winds that are coming in this way, that's going to blow the kind of choking feeling that you get. And that's what it is. You start coughing, it becomes more difficult to breathe. I don't believe there's really been any studies linking adverse effects to the point of death with humans. I have seen some stories about dogs who falling in a canal, for example, where red tide was prevalent, that the dogs didn't survive. But more research needs to be done. Moat Marine here in the Sarasota, Bradenton area is researching this, and it's just something over time we're going to learn more. When something affects you like that, where you feel like you can't breathe, of course you're going to think, oh, maybe this just isn't good. And if you have any pre-existing conditions like heart disease or lung issues, it may affect you more. I know that I'm pretty sensitive to it. I've had chronic bronchitis, I've had asthma, undiagnosed asthma, it's thought, when I was a kid, because I couldn't breathe in St. Louis. And I'll tell you what, I would prefer these blue skies and the breeze that we get here any day of the week than having to go through a St. Louis summer. So it's up with and how to deal with it. So people say, well, how do you deal with it, Helen? And the way is just to move further inland. But even in condominiums, if you come off the beach and you're in your condo, it's fine often. Now, because the red tide this weekend has been a mile inland, it can be problematic. And so you just have to figure out ways. But generally speaking, when you're inside a house or a condo, you don't experience it. Now, I lived out on Anna Maria Island up in the Bradenton area, and it was just starting to come in bloom when I moved out of my condo. And when I was in the condo, it was fine. I didn't experience it at all. So these are just some things to consider, and some people might say, well, Ellen, if you're a realtor, why are you even talking about this? Because I think it's important to be honest with you. That's my reputation as a TV consumer investigative reporter. And if you're going to get here and you buy something from me and then you call me up the morning after saying, oh, I've just gone to Siesta Key and I couldn't breathe. How come you didn't tell me that? Well, suffice it to say, you've been told. But again, in the grand scheme of things, I think this place, Southwest Florida, just has so many incredible things to offer that it's just you just have to deal with it. And we have to deal with environmental refugees because of all the things that are happening on this planet, because we have not taken care of the planet so well. So people are going to move to Florida whether or not I'm a realtor or not. So, and if you have found value in this and you want to know more about living here, certainly I know the parks and I can get you a place where so many 5Ks and 10Ks are run here in Southwest Florida, because lots of people really want to have access to the parks, and especially the Legacy Trail. It's the new up-and-coming park, and they've connected a lot of places along the way, so you can actually get to the beach from almost downtown Sarasota. So rails to trails, they've taken out the rails. The trails have replaced them, the old trains that just don't run anymore. And that's what they're doing here. So if I can help you get here, don't forget to like and subscribe and smash that notification button so you'll see the next one coming down the pike here. And check out my website if you want to see what properties are actually listed live as we speak that are on the market. That's ellenjaffejones.com. All right, everyone, gotta run.